It's another Micro Action Monday on Studio Class.
I like the rock and roll music.
Hey divas, we're back. It's another Micro Action Monday. I'm super pumped that you're here as always. Thank you so much for listening to this. So today we're talking about building community. And obviously I'm very passionate about building community and maintaining community. And it is one of the research areas that I talk the most about, actually. And so I was going to mention that one of the most popular workshops that I do is about community building, is about music is a referral network. And so if you have an interest in those types of workshops, these can be digital workshops or in-person workshops. If that's of interest to you, and maybe you have a community or you have students or a studio and you would like to talk about those things, get at me. You can just DM me. We can talk about it. But today is about how I built Diva Squad and how you can start your own community. And I'm really thinking about community building is career building. So when we're thinking about community, one of the frameworks that I apply to this, and one of the ones that I teach in those workshops that I was telling you about, is that community equals shared values plus shared activities plus consistency. Let me go over it one more time. Community equals shared values plus shared activities plus consistency. Those elements are the bedrock of making and maintaining community. And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I was thinking about Diva Squad, and it's been a minute since we've been doing this, but Diva Squad was a small mastermind group that I asked some friends in classical music or kind of in new music, folks who were also singers, to join me so that we could have a place to have real conversations, talk about our challenges, things that we were going through, be really open about our goals, and cheer each other on, because I feel like that team aspect, especially as creative people, is so valuable. It's so important, so helpful in so many ways. So I was really looking for that for myself, and that's why I tested out Diva Squad and had just such an incredible experience with it, and wanted to tell you about the infrastructure. Another community that I had such an incredible connection to was the MusoChat community on Twitter back in the day. Before Twitter was the dumpster fire that it is now. And that is also to say that communities shapeshift over time, and that's okay. So the ones that I'm telling you about right now, Diva Squad and MusoChat, they are now open source. They're not in the same functionality that they once were, but that's part of it, is that communities come together. They are maintained through the actual activities and the consistency of what you're doing. And it's okay to start something and let it exist for a season and then close it down, or put it on hiatus and bring it back later. All of those things are okay. So if you're thinking about starting a community right now, but you're a little worried, or you're thinking about doing community building activities, thinking about community organizing in any sort of way, and you're worried that you shouldn't start it or you shouldn't take those steps because you don't know how long you're going to be able to maintain it, I would really like for you to set those concerns to the side for a little bit. You can always pick them back up later. That's the thing about concerns, is that they'll always be ready for you to pick them back up. But set them to the side for just a moment and think about the benefits that can come from something, even if it's not forever, even if it's just for a season of your life or a chapter of your life, that it is wonderful and beneficial to do this kind of work, to put in this kind of effort to make and maintain these bonds together. So I'll tell you a little bit about the infrastructure of Diva Squad. I'll tell you a little bit about the infrastructure of MusoChat. And then your micro action is to pick one person in your field, send them a message about forming a community together, an intentional community together, and just start there. I am sure there is one person in your life that you would like to be in community with, in the active version of community with regularly. So reach out to one person today and ask them if they'd like to do that with you. And it's okay if they say no. It's okay if they say yes. It's okay if they don't respond at all. Any of the things is fine. But your microaction is about reaching out. Your microaction is about putting it out there into the universe, that is something that you're interested in and that you would like to pursue. And if they also share that interest, that you could start together. Okay, let's talk about the infrastructure for a second. I'll share the infrastructure that I kind of shared with Diva Squad when we started it. So Diva Squad existed as a Facebook group. And I mean, it still does, but like at the time that this was a really straightforward way for us to meet and share things. And our Diva Squad mastermind had some basic tenets. And so what I had laid out for the group were things like office hours. And this is where we get to know each other a little bit better, get a feel for each other's goals and personalities. This was designed as a recurring meeting time in which we could virtually chat, or really we could do this as a Zoom meeting where we'd kind of jump on and talk about things that are coming up for us or things that we're thinking about. And each member of the group would be responsible for running one of the office hours. And it's one of those things where it's like people are busy, our lives get hectic, and so there's some flexibility in this meeting time. And also, depending on the size of your community, if you're keeping it intentionally small, right, then something like this is a little bit easier to schedule because you don't have quite as many people's schedules getting in the way. But it also just depends on who is in your community, who is in your group. One of the things that I thought really worked well in Diva Squad was hot seat. So we would have a hot seat in the Facebook group, which was designed to give each of the members accountability to our goals. And we thought about this as one hot seat per person per month as a good starting place. And when it's your turn in the hot seat, you would share with the entire Diva Squad the progress that you've made towards your goals since your last hot seat. And so we would just have everybody in the group pick a day that was their hot seat day, mark it in your calendar, and then be personally responsible towards updating the group. Hey, here are the things that I'm working on. These are some of the things that I'm blocked by. These are some of the goals that I have. And that way we could cheer each other on, which is another important part about this, but just being responsible to sharing those kinds of things with people that are on your side, right? They want to see you win. That's a really important part about this kind of like this mastermind kind of community is also, it doesn't have to be a huge group of people. It has to be the right group of people. It has to be a group of people that you can build trust with over time, and people who are generally going to cheer each other on, or if they're providing feedback, they're providing positive feedback or feedback that you can take action on, any of that kind of stuff, constructive criticism, right? All of the good concepts that we remember from something like studio class, or not the podcast necessarily, but I hope that you would think that there are good principles involved. But when we're giving constructive criticism in those kinds of environments, and if you've been through music school, I think that most of us have really good examples and really terrible examples of this kind of thing. So we can draw on that background knowledge to make sure that we're giving each other important prodding or questioning or opening up lines of inquiry that the person may not have thought about before. These are all ways that we can make the most out of a hot seat. The next part was inform. So we just kind of share information with each other that may help with our long-term goals. So this could be anything from technical information, monetization ideas, like audition information. And especially for a group like this was like so much of the opportunities, so many of the opportunities, I should say, that we find out about in the arts are because of that referral network, right? There are hubs of information, and it's so important for us to have those and to also make and maintain those, share those widely with each other. But there are going to be tons and tons of opportunities that you find out about because of someone else in your community or in your network. And that is just how creative fields work. And so part of Diva Squad was this inform section was really a place where when we're aware of each other's goals and desires, most desired outcomes, we would be more aware of opportunities that cross our path that would be right for someone else in Diva Squad, right? It's not only, oh, these are the only opportunities that are good for me and nobody else, right? But we're starting to make ourselves more aware generally of opportunities in the field and then purposefully passing those along to people that we are in this community with because we're aware of the projects that they're working on, the goals that they have, the type of work they want to do, the types of networks that they want to belong to, those kinds of things.
Woo-hoo! I want to take a heartfelt moment to thank Sarah and Josh for being part of the Sybaritic Camerata Listening Circle on Patreon. They're helping bring you this episode right now. If you'd like to join them, head on over to patreon.com/mezzoinen. That's MEZZOIHNEN. Now, let's get back to the show.
The next part was ovations. And this was really one of the biggest benefits of the mastermind is just having a group of divas that are actively encouraging each other to reach our various goals. I think that you can hear, even though this Diva Squad was happening about 10 years ago, oh my goodness, time passes so fast. So even though Diva Squad was happening that many years in the past, that having these encouraging places where we could, even though it was happening, like what I'm saying is, even though this was happening in the past, I was already thinking about how social media can be a very difficult and unhappy place, right? There's a lot of it that can be very unhealthy. And I was trying to change my relationship with social media to make sure that I was getting the benefits out of it without succumbing to the pitfalls, right? To falling into those traps. So having something like Diva Squad is a really great place as a micro community, as a micro group on social media where it wasn't falling into the unhealthy parts of being on social media. If you start a community, remember that you're also responsible for shaping the interactions in those things and guiding it so that you're keeping these principles front of mind and encouraging each other to be encouraging, respectful, open-minded with each other and cheering each other on as you go. And the last part that I wanted to talk about with the infrastructure of Diva Squad was the challenges, or kind of what I was thinking of as like the group projects. Diva Squad was a private group born out of my 29 Days to Diva series, and which is also how Studio Class was born. So all of these things are coming from this branch of my life, all of the writings that I've done on micro actions over the years. And so the group projects were really taking the concept of micro actions and turning those into either weekly challenges. And then we decided through the doing of Diva Squad that it was actually better for us to turn them into monthly challenges. So there would be one micro action per month that we would use as prompts. And they would just be reminders to update our materials, to reimagine what we're doing, to grow in certain ways so that we can crush those little actionable steps on our way to Diva Town. And then the challenges did have a nice kind of tie-in. So you could talk about how you did the challenge as part of your hot seat if you wanted to, if you needed a little bit of a prompt. But also I found that the Divas in Diva Squad were already just daily thinking about the things that they were working on. And so it was really easy for us to kind of share not only the projects that we were doing, the steps that we were taking, the goals that we had during hot seat, but also, asking questions or getting feedback on things. So that is the way that we were talking about the infrastructure around Diva Squad. Again, just a private group on Facebook. And there are so many more options now. I mean, think back. So back to like 2016 when I'm doing Diva Squad, and there are so many, many, many more options for communities, digital communities, in-person communities now, but we have to take advantage of them and we have to think about them. I'm actually surprised that we have so much more like digital infrastructure to support communities, and yet we're further away from feeling embedded in communities. And I hear about that all the time from my students, from my colleagues. So that's really another reason that today's episode is about how to build community. I did want to talk about a MusoChat for a second. The infrastructure of MusoChat was a lot more open because it was designed to be a public Twitter chat and everybody used the hashtag MusoChat to connect. It took place every week on Sunday evenings. As one of the quote unquote council of elders for the MusoChat, I spent many, many Sunday evenings moderating MusoChat on Twitter. And MusoChat would have a host, would have someone who is asking the questions each week, and they would come up with a list of questions. And I loved this format so much because, and I think this is Gaylord DeWalt's influence also on the Council of Elders, who said that the host brings the questions and then everybody can participate and share their information, their expertise, their background knowledge, all of those kinds of things, their context, their perspectives. And I thought that this format really opened up conversations, allowed people to engage both as learners and as experts. And that was so powerful about that digital community. So the takeaway there was that the host would say, question 1, tell me about what it's like to build a community in your local scene, right? I don't know. But that's the whole point of the MusoChat host is asking questions, because it's not about us. MusoChat was less about us lifting up a host who is going to give us all the answers, but really looking at the community and saying, this is a group where we're mutually sharing information, helping to pass along best practices, helping to share opportunities, all sorts of things like that. And then we know people that we can reach out to when we do have challenges, when we do have blockers, when we do have things that are overwhelming or hard to deal with, or we need a little bit of outside perspective to address something. So I would like for you to just kind of keep these in mind. I gave you 2 examples of digital or virtual communities, but community, both in person and virtual, they're all powerful ways to experience those bonds, those relationship bonds. You may be invested right now in thinking about an in-person community. And remember, shared values, shared activities, consistency works the same for in-person communities as it does for virtual communities. So please apply that as you're thinking about how do you want to get together. How can you set up experiences that gather your people around shared values and shared activities, but do it consistently, right? So if you are starting something, I want you to think about what you can maintain. How can you maintain the consistency of this? Be responsible to the community that you are influencing, that you are also being a part of, that you're being a member of, so that this can grow and people can develop those bonds of trust over time. That's what comes through with the consistency part. I know so many folks want to feel the benefits of community, and they're overwhelmed by the actions of community or the effort that goes into community. But I cannot overemphasize how wonderful it is. The effort is absolutely worth it on the other side to experience those bonds together. So Divas, this is just us talking about your micro action for today. Remember, go back to one person in your field. Send them a message about forming a community group together, even if it's just the 2 of you to get started. Get started there, right? So hopefully some of this, the infrastructure of communities that I have worked with and that I've been a part of, helps you brainstorm, think about how you could do that for yourself and the people that you want to be in community with regularly. If you have any questions about this, find me on the socials. I want to talk about it. You know I love talking about this. Again, if you would like that workshop at your institution, you can also get a hold of me. You can email me. You can find me on the socials. It's pretty easy. So let's leave it there. Divas, I hope that you are staying sparkly inside and out, and I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me for Micro Action Monday. Again, I'm Megan Enan, and you can find me on all the socials at Mezzo Enan. That's IHNEN. Did you know that studio class is part of the Sybaritic Singer? It is. And if you liked this episode, you're going to love my 29 Days to Diva series. That's on SybariticSinger.com. And if you liked this episode, will you please consider leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast? Thanks. It means a lot to me.